The main purpose of USP 797 was to address issues of patients becoming ill from contaminated sterile compounded drugs. USP 797 ensures that the drugs are properly protected and free of any contamination. USP 800 is a response to numerous studies showing that people who work with hazardous drugs are becoming ill as a result of their work. USP 800 is in place to protect the people who are handling the drugs. There are numerous different types of CPECs. The CPEC is an ISO 5 area where the drug compounding takes place. Proper clean airflow is vital to the sterile environment. The air typically enters at the ceiling, is HEPA filtered, and is distributed using laminar flow diffusers. The return and exhaust should be placed carefully so that the space can be washed with clean air. The two recommended types of layouts for USP 800 and 797 are a sterile compounding layout and a non-sterile compounding layout. The labs may be of a slightly different shape, but these are the typical layouts. The most common configuration includes an ISO 7 anteroom connected to both the hazardous drug compounding and non-hazardous drug compounding areas, each with different airflow characteristics and ISO requirements. Controls allow staff to monitor and maintain the required space pressurization. Standards 797 and 800 are not always in sync, so the higher of the two requirements should always be met. The intent of the delayed implementation of 800 is to issue an updated 797 and 800 simultaneously, with all requirements synchronized so there are no conflicts or differences between the two standards. One of the changes recognized in USP 800 is the need for a negatively pressurized hazardous drug storage space. As facility staff and pharmacists review their pharmacies, it is important to keep hazardous drugs separated from the non-hazardous drugs. The maximum temperature allowed in pharmacies is 68 degrees. However, because pharmacists and staff are gowned up in the clean rooms, lower temperatures typically are needed. This can have an impact on the building and infrastructure, so it is important to maintain the lower temperatures without a high level of humidity, much like it is in an operating room. USP 797 and 800 do not have any minimum humidity requirements for non-hospital settings, so local humidifiers and the cost and control concerns that come with them are not required. Pharmacies must be in continuous operation, so they need a specific infrastructure and level of redundancy. However, the pharmacist is the key decision maker regarding system infrastructure because they are the end users. Engineers and designers need to engage with the pharmacist and the facility staff to provide a solution they can maintain. IMEG views dedicated pressure control per room and dedicated temperature control per room as best practices for HVAC systems, and system flexibility allows for change in load and equipment over the life of the building or the space. Though HEPA filtration in an open pharmacy, the space outside the compounded area, is not required by the standards, except in some certain instances, it is successful in helping maintain clean room requirements. Exhaust location is a recommended practice from OSHA, but it is not required. However, this layout is the best practice for planning the pharmacy exhaust. Hazardous drugs are required to be HEPA filtered, but since this doesn't necessarily remove all vapors created, it is important to direct that exhaust from the space up and away from the building and other outside air intakes. To maintain the required room pressurization, the walls need to go to the deck and everything must be sealed tight. Doors can be automated so that multiple doors don't open at the same time, preventing cross-contamination. Or the staff can be trained to not use one door until the other door closes. Low-voltage systems provide multiple benefits, including intercoms that allow pharmacists to communicate without having to enter or leave the compounding areas, and cameras that give them the ability to review the drugs from an outside room. The security systems also aid in protecting the narcotics stored in these areas. Fan filter units can potentially increase air change rates for existing pharmacies, where it can be difficult to make easy and low-cost improvements. Facility staff and pharmacists need to follow the specific requirements in the standards and be familiar with them to ensure their pharmacy is up to code, and so they can confirm that their certifier is providing them with the required services. The upcoming revisions to 797 will go into effect at the same time as the new 800 standard.